Welcome to Get to the Hook. I am your co-host, Charles Latibaudiere.
And I'm your co-host, Eric Colley.
And we are gonna, I will say this, we're gonna go over some of just phenomenal songs over the course of the last, 5 decades.
Yeah, we're going
gonna
back
be
to
talking
the 70s
about.
here.
But the reason we're talking about them, that's the good news. The good news is great music and some great stories behind that music. The bad news is the hook this week. So our hook, I'm just going to be upfront about our thought process here. Like most Americans, we may have been thinking about some investments that aren't doing so well because of tariffs.
Stock market is collapsing.
We're not going to bore you with talk about tariffs, but let's just say some of us may be feeling like we're getting robbed. Well, if you think you're getting robbed, and you are, imagine what these artists were thinking, because we're talking about songs that stalled out. And they didn't just stall out.
They got robbed.
They got robbed.
And this is songs and albums that not just, that should have been a number one, but there just happened to be something more popular, because that happens.
That does happen.
These are things that actually should have been number one, but because of chart rules, because of very obsessive fans, because of, in one famous case we'll get to at the end, legendary bribery and corruption in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Certain songs and albums that should have been number one didn't get to go there.
So they're going to get their due today.
Right.
Does that help any of these artists? Do they care what we are saying? Absolutely not. No. But we get to enjoy the music.
Okay, too. They all did all right.
Yeah.
But we're going to start with the most surprising one, because of people, if you think of somebody in music who got robbed to be a number one,
you would never, ever say this name.
You're never going to go with Michael Jackson.
Right.
But Michael Jackson absolutely got robbed of a number one album. His official count on the Billboard 200 album chart is 6 number one albums. It should be 7. And Billboard themselves know this, because they changed their rules after they were embarrassed for the entire summer of 2009. So, Michael Jackson dies in June of 2009. As you would expect, instantly, people started consuming his music.
Right.
Fun fact, when they downloaded his songs, do you know what was Michael's most downloaded song?
And back then, people were downloading.
Yeah, this was on iTunes. Streaming hadn't quite taken off yet.
Right.
But this is the song that everyone gravitated to. This was the rallying song for Michael fans. I mean, all of his songs surged.
Right, all surged.
But what was the biggest? Let's see if you can guess.
If I were guessing, I would have said either Thriller or it's got to be something off the Thriller album, right? So it would have to be either Thriller or Beat. It's not Beat.
Billie Jean.
It's not Billie Jean. Like Billie Jean would be the one that.
It was this one.
Okay,
Man in the Mirror was his most downloaded song that week. I think maybe because you don't want to be too happy and dance like Billie Jean. I mean, people did go to that song,
and that was
too.
a thoughtful song, right?
Right.
Like it was inspirational.
It was
an inspirational
the
song.
Ethos of who they thought Michael Jackson was Man in the Mirror. But that was his biggest song. So he had a compilation.
By the way, that
album.
song was a number one hit.
That was a number one hit in 1988.
So that's not what we're talking about.
No.
You may be thinking like, wait, that song definitely went to number one. It did.
But that song was on an album called Number Ones. It was a compilation album released in 2003, 6 years before Michael died. When it was released, it debuted at number 13 on the album chart. Dropped off pretty quickly, because that was not long after the second round of allegations against Michael.
Right.
After his passing, that was the album people most purchased. And it became the best-selling album in the country for 6 consecutive weeks.
Which makes sense.
It was the best-selling album in America.
For anyone who was just trying to listen to Michael's, it's the greatest hits album,
like
right?
Thriller was back up there. The Essential Michael Jackson, another greatest hits album. Bad was back up there. But Number Ones, for 6 weeks in a row, unquestionably was the best-selling album in America. But if you looked at Billboard's album chart that summer, it was nowhere on it. Because Billboard had this dumb rule at the time.
Billboard.
They messed up. They had this rule that catalog albums, meaning albums over 18 months old and had fallen below number 100, were no longer allowed to appear on the chart. Because they're like, we want to keep the fresh new stuff. We don't want to see these old Pink Floyd and Bob Marley albums floating around forever,
right.
which they do now. So they had this rule that this old album from 2003 was ineligible for the Billboard 200. And it was the first time ever a catalog album had actually outsold any current record. The week that Michael Jackson died which was only a partial week, number ones sold 108,000 copies. The number one official album that week was The End by the Black Eyed Peas, which sold 88,000 copies. The following week, it's even worse. Remember the Now That's What I Call Music series? Albums?
No.
Look at these numbers. Now, Volume 31 debuted at number one. Officially, it was the number one album. It sold 169,000 copies. Number one's Michael's album, in its first full week after his death, sold 350,000 copies.
What?
So almost twice as many copies. It was not on the charts at all. And it became, and Billboard, I think, kind of hoped like, okay, this will be like a 1 week blip.
After 1 week, and it wouldn't be an issue.
6 weeks, this album was the best-selling album in America, and it was nowhere on the charts.
And never, ever on the charts.
It was on the catalog chart. It was number one there for a long time. It became a huge embarrassment for Billboard. So eventually, by December of 2009...
something's got to change.
They changed it. They said, you know what? Okay, old albums can chart. But it was too late to help number ones. Officially, its peak position is still the number 13 position it had in 2003.
Wow.
So Michael Jackson
that was definitely
lost out on a number one album.
That was a crime.
It was a crime. And because they changed it...
Musical crime. I want to be clear. I'm talking about a musical
Yeah, musical crime. Musical crime with Michael.
Yeah.
And then after they changed it, since then we've seen lots of artists benefit from... Well,
Mariah
benefits.
Carey.
Well, I'm saying benefit is weird to say for deaths, but
Sure.
Whitney Houston's greatest hits album went to number 2. The Very Best of Prince re-entered at number 1 after his death. Toby Keith's 35 biggest hits hit number 1 after he died. We've seen all kinds of albums get posthumous bumps, but that's only because they got embarrassed by what happened with Michael Jackson.
So they changed the rule for albums. Did they also
did for
change the
singles.
rule for singles at the same time?
And we didn't know if they were going to or not until the week Whitney died in 2012, because we knew, okay, her album can chart. And then I Will Always Love You re-entered in the top 10 and went to number 3. So it's like, okay, old songs can chart now too. Because...
And this is the beauty. And by the way, Mariah Carey benefits from this every year.
She gets a number 1 hit every Christmas.
As do a lot of other people.
Right.
Christmas
But it is weird if you look at the Billboard Hot 100, their main singles chart, or the 200, their album chart, in the summer of 2009, when Michael Jackson was selling insane numbers, he's not anywhere on either one of those charts. And it just, like, that's not...
Yeah, that's
not reflecting what is popular.
That's a blemish. Okay.
It was. So they had to change the charts because of that.
Well, there you go.
They also had to change it because of this next song, a song that got to number 2, spent 7 weeks at number 2 in the fall of 2012, never quite got to number 1, but it should have been. Gangnam Style by Psy.
Oppan Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style. Oppan Gangnam Style.
I mean, it's not the deepest song,
but it was huge.
But you can't help but move to it. It's
fun fact: you got to do the little horsey dance with Psy, didn't you?
Yes, that's right.
He came into the studio.
I came in like a very early incarnation of TMZ Live.
Yeah, and you and Harvey got to do the little horsey dance with him.
I hope that video does not exist.
Oh, it does.
I mean, I know it does. I hope
it does.
Dug it up.
But the reason this one got robbed is because 7 weeks at number 2 is pretty impressive, especially at that time for a K-pop artist. Like, he opened the door for all the ones who came later, one of whom we're going to be talking about in a minute here. But what really drove that song, of course, was YouTube. The early days of really big YouTube music videos. Gangnam Style actually became the first video ever to hit 1 billion views on YouTube.
I remember that. Yeah.
At its peak, it was doing almost 15 million views a day.
Which never made sense to me.
People loved that video. It was viral before TikTok.
But how are you? There's just not enough time in the day.
People loved Gangnam Style. So, but at this point in time, the charts were solely radio airplay and sales, which was digital sales and iTunes Store at that point. Streaming was not really a big factor yet. But YouTube was a huge way people consumed music in the early 2010s. And this song was doing 1 billion views. It was shattering records left and right. It was far and away the most popular song in the world and in America. But Billboard did not count YouTube because they thought it was the same as MTV, which they also used to not count for the charts. So those video views.
I get the MTV part, but
kinda.
YouTube is different because people weren't consuming music through YouTube the same way they did with MTV.
MTV you just watched.
You just had it on, you were watching, and that's a TV ratings thing. But people are actually listening to songs on YouTube. That was kind of, it's the start of streaming, really.
It was. It was. People would go to YouTube to listen to their favorite music, and if you had a cool music video, which Gangnam Style did have, goofy as it was a very memorable music video. So it's getting 15 million views a day. It's shattering all these records, but none of that's counting for the charts. So Psy only had airplay, which was not much for that song. Radio wasn't really playing that song a ton. And it's
Which is
digital
weird.
sales. Well, because it was a super up-tempo foreign language song. American radio was like, eh. No, American radio was playing a much safer bet, a song that was number one for 9 weeks.
I don't
blocked
remember.
Psy.
I don't know what this is, but
Nobody remembers this song, but it was number one for 9 weeks. You know the artist. It's their biggest hit. This is Maroon 5, One More Night.
And I know I said it a million times, but I'll only stay with you one more night. Try to tell you no.
Do you remember that at all?
Safe. That was,
yeah,
that was
that's why-
a great adjective. Safe.
It was safe for radio, had a little bit of a bounce to it, but not too much.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I don't remember that as that. Is that their biggest?
9 weeks at number one.
They don't have anything else that approaches.
I mean, they've had songs that charted longer and did better, like Girls Like You, but
as far as
technically weeks
one,
at number one, that was their biggest. Even Adam Levine was championing Psy at one point. He's like, come on, this song is great. But because Billboard wouldn't count any of the YouTube views, Psy was never able to get to number one.
So,
And it was clearly a much more popular song and a much bigger cultural moment than Maroon 5's One More Night.
that is a crime. I'm sorry.
It's a crime. Psy got robbed. He never got a number one hit.
And I'm not the one who's going to sit here and say like, "Oh, Gangnam Style is like a great song."
That's
should
not what we're
forever be
discussing.
remembered. But in that moment, it was certainly more of a cultural touchstone than One More Night was.
And that's not just perception. Again, those YouTube views, that's how people were consuming music, but it just wasn't reflected yet.
And I think that's what you see happening at that moment is
Right.
the shift.
And that's what this is. You see a lot of these, and even with Michael Jackson, you started to see, as people could buy albums digitally, there was no question of things being in stock in a record store anymore. People started going back and discovering old albums. And you see, if you look at the charts now, the album chart, half of it is old albums, old Drake and
Just
Taylor
for
albums,
whatever reason,
old
people
Queen
start-
albums.
yeah.
Yeah, you're discovering old stuff. So there's always got to be that, the canary in the coal mine kind of that paves the way for everybody else.
Mhm.
And again, after Gangnam Style became sort of an embarrassment when it's like, this is clearly number one.
If you
It
weren't
should be number
alive,
one.
just to remember, like, I mean, again, Gangnam Style, not the greatest song in the world, but certainly from that moment,
It was
in that
the
moment of time,
biggest.
it's the song that's remembered. And that Maroon 5 song is not remembered, which is weird to say the song was number one for 9 weeks, which I'm sure is why Billboard realized our metric is screwed up here.
Yeah, and then they overcorrected in early 2013, right after a few, not very long, like a few weeks after Gangnam Style got blocked. Another viral trend happened on YouTube, and it was one that was just too big to ignore. So they changed the charts and said, okay, you know what, this can chart. They didn't announce they were going to change it. So I remember the week that chart came out, it's when Thrift Shop by Macklemore and Ryan Lewis was number one. And so the new chart's coming out, and it's like, well, of course that's going to be number one again this week. And then it wasn't. The Harlem Shake by Bauer was number one. Remember the Harlem Shake?
Yes, and I do
with
remember.
those videos?
I remember us even talking about this song being number one.
5
We're like,
weeks it was
how
number
did
one.
that happen?
They went too far because what they allowed, remember the Harlem Shake went viral because there'd be those 30-second videos,
Mm-hmm.
which would have been huge on TikTok had it existed at the time. But, it was like one person dancing kind of weird in a crowd full of people who aren't interested, and then the beat drops, and then everybody's dancing.
Right.
So like these little 20, 30-second clips. Billboard counted all of those little user-generated clips. So every little 20, 30-second clip of it counted for the charts now. So this song had these massive inflated numbers,
Right. when
and it's like,
people
oh,
were
wait,
just-
you've overcorrected now.
Right. You can't give them credit for a full
Yeah.
airplay when someone's just dancing for 20
When it's
seconds.
just so if somebody goes through and watches like a compilation of like 15 Harlem Shake videos, the song just
That's
got 15 plays. No, that shouldn't count. And then realized they'd gone too far with this in 2014. Do you remember a viral video in 2014?
I'm sure I
It was like
don't.
a little short film of this artist made this video of strangers meeting for the very first time and having to make out.
I don't remember.
I think it was in New York. It was like in this loft. It was like this art space, and just random people agreed to come do this.
Sounds kind of sketchy, but
It
all right.
seems a little sketchy, but it was a viral thing for a week. Everybody was watching this video of strangers having to get very, very intimate the first time they meet.
Mhm.
And it's not that they were attracted to each other. It wasn't a dating thing. It was just to see,
a setup to be like, all right.
yeah,
here's
how
a
do you
stranger in
react
front of
to,
you.
I just met this person and now my tongue's in their mouth. And so everybody watched
Like
this
I
video
said,
for a week.
sketchy.
Yeah. But so the video itself was viral. It had about a week-long moment. And then on the chart the next week, the song We Might Be Dead by Tomorrow by Soko was number 9 on the Hot 100. And everybody's like, what?
Purely off.
Who is this? What is this? What people who watched the video didn't even realize there was this little soft indie rock song playing in the background while the strangers made out.
So what? The song wasn't even like featured.
No, it was not
just
even about that. I
complete
had
background.
seen the video and didn't even realize there was a song in it. And then suddenly it debuts at number 9, and then because the virality passed, it dropped off the chart the next week. So it debuted at 9 and was gone.
That's got to be some
And Billboard's
sort of
like,
trivia.
this is getting weird.
Yeah.
This is not a good look for us.
But
Then
you
they
know,
got rid of user-generated clips. So it's like, it has to be the actual video or the actual song.
So this is what you're seeing is like Billboard trying to react to something but not fully understanding the technology.
Yeah.
And then they got to make some
And then you got to course
adjustments.
correct. And
Right.
So they're always trying to play catch up, but there's always that thing that kind of gets screwed over. Michael Jackson, Psy. The next one is a song that actually did get to number 1, and it spent 1 week there. It should have spent 11 weeks there.
Ooh.
Talking about this song, 2021, Olivia Rodrigo, Good For You. So if Psy opened the door for K-pop, this is where it got so far the other way.
I wouldn't have suspected that Olivia Rodrigo would be on our list of people who were robbed just because she's so late
huge.
in the game, so recent that they've figured it out.
Oh, no.
How did she get robbed?
So this one is pretty fascinating. So that song did debut at number 1, and then it fell to number 2 and spent 10 straight weeks at number 2 because of one group.
How would she just be there 1 week and then just stay at 2? Something, even
Something
if I'm just looking
happened.
at that, something happened and something's
this
not
one-
right.
This caused a lot of controversy online. It's the modern state of
right.
fan armies. We are talking about the BTS army, BTS, the premier K-pop group. And they got a lot of hate, and their fans got a lot of hate. Honestly, I kind of have to commend them on this. They rallied, and they took advantage of the system as it existed. They found the loopholes, and
Game the system.
they gamed the system.
Yeah.
They played fully within the rules. So Billboard had a dumb rule that if you bought a digital single, which who was even doing that by 2021, that you could buy 4 copies of a song in a week. 4 individual copies of the same song, and they would count.
Okay.
Because you think, well, who would even buy 4 copies of the same
Right, why
song
would you do that?
digitally? Why would you even do that? So their fans realized if you can buy 4 copies each, and then on BTS's digital web store, like on iTunes, you could only buy 1 because it's like you've already purchased this.
Right.
On BTS's web store, they released digital variant covers. So it's the same song. It was their song. It's this song. It's Butter. It's a catchy song.
Yeah. Very, very catchy.
And
So
it
they
got
did
some
different
radio
versions
airplay.
of that?
So it's the same song, but in their web store, it have like different members of the group on the digital single cover. Not even a physical cover. Or it'd be like a different color. Like one is yellow, one is blue, one is red. So they had, I think, like 16 different, because they had different like codes.
Yeah.
So if you bought it, it
could
would count
buy, right.
as different versions of the same song.
So
And
all their
fans were allowed to
fans.
buy 4 copies of each of them. So you could buy
So they buy
60
16 out.
plus
So every fan
4
is buying
copies of 16.
Right.
So each fan's buying close to 70 copies per week. And you think, how in the world could you afford this? I mean, that's like $70, however much a week. They're international fans because BTS has a huge arm, their fans are global. They set up PayPal accounts and fans from all over the world would dump cash into it for American fans to withdraw and buy copies of the single. And then you had to send the receipts
So wait,
to prove
the
that's
rest
what
of
you
the
used money
world was
for.
subsidizing
Yes.
American fans'
there are
purchases of
There are tweets from
BTS.
Indonesian fan accounts, from Indian fan accounts, from all over the world. Like, oh, we have $500 in this account. Come get your money to buy butter this week. And so BTS's fans were like, we'll keep pulling the money out. We'll keep buying our 70 copies. And enough of them did it that they kept it in sales at number 1 for 10 weeks. It was out of the top 40 on streaming.
I gotta hand it to
was
them
out
for
of the
the
top 40 on
ingenuity.
radio. Yeah, honestly, they were gaming a system the way the system was created. And it got really obvious after the 7th week. BTS released a song called Permission to Dance. And the BTS Army's like, well, we have to get that song to number 1 too. We can't both. So they had to divert the funds from Butter to Permission to Dance. That song did
All
debut at number
funds
1.
are now
Yeah, that's what they
tagged
did.
for-
But we got to keep enough for Butter. We can't let it fall. So Permission to Dance debuts at number 1.
who was
Butter
their
drops to
CFO
number-
for the BTS army. Who's
I don't know. I
figuring this out?
mean, honestly, it's brilliant. Like the organization
Really?
and the way they did this. So Permission to Dance debuts at number 1. Butter falls to number 7. Olivia Rodrigo's still at number 2 because she's number 1 on streaming
Right.
and on radio. The next week, they shifted the funds back. Butter jumps from 7 back to number 1, and Permission to Dance plunges down the chart. Like, the BTS army was holding the charts hostage.
Wow.
And poor Olivia Rodrigo kind of got screwed. I mean, she did get her week.
Can we have the BTS army figure out tariffs?
No kidding.
Let's just have them do it. Come on.
They got a lot of hate at the time, and I'm like, you know what? More power to them. Because
yeah,
who would ever
they
think
played
that
the system.
any fan...
But I get it. If you're an Olivia Rodrigo fan, you're going like, come on, man. Just
This is not right.
there's nothing they could do. Like, I mean...
They were playing by the rules.
And they were playing by the rules. And by the way, this is what... And she gets a lot of crap for this now, that Taylor Swift puts out all these different versions of... But why wouldn't you?
If they're going to buy it, why not?
If they're going to buy it, put it out there.
Except for in BTS's case, Billboard did change the rules because it got to where it was embarrassing again. It's like, okay, this song is... No one's streaming it. Radio's not playing it. And it's been number 1 for 10 weeks now. They changed it so that individual accounts could only purchase 1 copy per week. None of this 4.
So where are all the funds in that account? And can I tap in? What?
That was the thing. If anybody was, and you could only, it wasn't like you're going to get thousands of dollars out of it. You could only get enough to buy however many copies of Butter that week. But if anybody withdrew the funds and then didn't prove with the receipt that's what they bought, they were banned and not allowed to access the account anymore.
So you could get away with it once.
Maybe once.
Yeah.
But how would you even know about it?
$70, I don't know.
Yeah, $70, free $70. But if you weren't in the BTS army, how would you even know this thing existed?
Right.
Like, they had this all figured out.
That is, man, they had it wired.
So you had fans around the world dumping money into crowdfunding accounts. So U.S. fans, because if they had bought, if the international fans had just bought directly from BTS, that doesn't count for the American charts. They're like, oh, so we'll just take our money and let you have access to it, which again sounds like could be an easy scam. But no, all the BTS fans used it for that, and they kept that song at number 1 for 10 weeks.
They might have.
Honestly, I thought it was really impressive.
That is.
I can't hate.
Let me say, I haven't heard the Beehive doing that.
You know?
I haven't heard of Taylor's fans doing that.
No. So, you know.
Get your shit together.
Again, don't hate the player, hate the game.
Wow. All right. Gotta hand it to BTS.
This last one, this is one of my favorite stories. This is a legend in the music industry. There was a guy in the late 1970s. We're going way back to the summer of 1978 here. This is full corruption. This story I love because I love both songs. I love both of these songs so
songs
much.
are phenomenal.
Okay, the one that got robbed, honestly, it sounds silly, but it's probably one of my all-time favorite songs. I don't know why I love this song so much.
It's not silly at all. There's something about this melody that is like...
The whole song, I mean, it's famous for its sax riff, which is what we're going to listen to right now. This is a little bit of Jerry Rafferty's song, Baker Street.
I'm looking at Wilder's just rolling his eyes, and he's like, "This is old man just like going like."
That song.
I totally saw it. I could. See
you know what? Oh, I know I can get Wild. Okay, Wild. Jerry Rafferty.
Hold on. Him.
Jerry Rafferty, who did that song. The follow-up song was a song called "Right Down the Line," which was the theme song to Euphoria, and you probably like that. I do. See, see. Anyway, no. Baker Street is an incredible song. It's a great song. In the summer of 1978, this song spent 6 weeks stuck at number 2. Number 2, one of the biggest number 2 hits of all time at that time. And it got blocked from number 1 by somebody that kind of makes sense. Andy Gibb, the younger brother of the Bee Gees. He was number 1 for 7 weeks that summer with this song, Shadow Dancing. I mean, I love that song too. I love that song.
I was going to sing along, but I've been told by people in my family, stop singing on the podcast.
Go ahead. I will never discourage it.
Even there's a funky riff in there. That one got wild. He was like, you know what, this one, it's not bad. It's not bad.
So Baker Street's number 2 for 6 weeks, and Andy Gibb is number 1. And this is 1978 is the year that the Bee Gees really blew up with Saturday Night Fever. It came out at the end of 77, but at the beginning of the year, they had How Deep Is Your Love, Staying Alive, Night Fever. Yeah, they were firing off the hits.
Flooding the charts.
And their younger brother, Andy, was having all these hits, and Shadow Dancing's number 1 for 7 weeks. Andy's and the Bee Gees at the time were on RSO Records, which stands for Robert Stigwood Organization. Robert Stigwood, who owned that, was their manager. The story is there was a guy named Bill Wardlow. In the late 70s into the early 80s, he was the chart director for Billboard. And by lots of accounts, he was very easily bribed,
Uh-huh.
and which kind of makes all the charts then a little suspect. The story is that after Baker Street had been number 2 for a couple of weeks, Billboard puts the chart out, and Baker Street finally gets to number 1.
Right.
Andy Gibb has fallen to number 2. Casey Kasem at the time was doing American Top 40. He gets the chart from Billboard so he can record the show that week, and he records the show about, Jerry Rafferty, the latest Scottish artist to get to number 1, and they record it. Then they get a frantic phone call going, no, we made a mistake. Andy is still number 1. Baker Street's number 2. Casey had to go back to the studio, re-record the number 1.
Take 2.
Yeah. And this was, there wasn't like digital delivery back then. You got to record to tape. They had to press albums and send them out to radio stations.
I still want the outtake of what Casey Kasem had to say when
I'd love to hear it.
If you've not, look it up on YouTube. The Casey Kasem
the Snuggles, the dog, when he lost his
language
mind.
was. So I'm sure when he had to go back in to re-record this,
probably not pleased.
Yeah.
So what the thing is, Bill Wardlow was hosting that summer Billboard's very first ever disco summit, an event to promote disco music and Billboard and all this kind of stuff. And the headliner, the star attraction, was Andy Gibb. So this is right around the time Billboard's, they're like, Baker Street has gone to number 1. Bill Wardlow, allegedly by lots of people's account in the industry, has dinner with Robert Stigwood and Andy Gibb's management, and they said, if Shadow Dancing is not number 1 this week, he's pulling out of your event. He's not going to appear at your Disco Summit.
Yeah, and if you have Disco Summit and you don't have Gibb representation at Disco Summit,
why are you even doing it?
It's not a Disco Summit.
So they said either Andy's still number 1 or we're not playing your show. And then lo and behold, Billboard, we made a mistake. Sorry, Shadow Dancing's actually still number 1. And it's so funny because in the July 1st, 1978 issue of Billboard, when Baker Street was in its 3rd week at number 2, Shadow Dancing still number 1. If you dig down to page 90 of that issue, there's a little tiny blurb just about like music industry happenings.
Right.
And it's talking about Jerry Rafferty, who didn't really tour. He was going to come to America from Scotland to do some TV appearances. And what it said in the magazine, quote, was, Rafferty enjoys the number 1 single this week on Billboard's Hot 100 chart with Baker Street. Bill Wardlow's own magazine couldn't get it right.
Oh.
And
I mean, because,
so Jerry Rafferty almost certainly did get to number 1. But because Andy Gibb was playing a disco summit for Billboard, they changed the charts, and full corruption there is allegedly what happened.
I will say, I don't know if this is in Billboard's favor, but Jerry Rafferty's, the album that came from, City to City,
it did go to number 1.
Did go to number 1 and knocked Saturday Night Fever out of the number 1 slot. I don't think permanently. I think Saturday Night Fever came back.
No, it never came back.
Never went back.
But then I think the Grease soundtrack was blowing up. Also on RSO Records. And interestingly, in the spring of '78, during BG Mania, the song The Closer I Get to You by Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway, beautiful song. Beautiful, beautiful song. It peaked at number 2 for a couple of weeks. Billboard released a chart where, it finally got to number 1. And then, oops, we had another issue. It's actually the song If I Can't Have You by Yvonne Elliman, which I also love that song. That's a great song.
Great song.
But If I Can't Have You is from the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack on the RSO record label by Robert Stigwood.
I don't know. We're not saying anything. We're just saying that's real. When you're an organization like Billboard that had been around for decades, and now even suddenly you have 3 hiccups in the process.
There are
in the same year. Come on.
Not so much with number 1, but from like 74, I think, is when Bill Wardlow took over until like 1983. There are so many bizarre things that happened on the charts in that period that never happened before or since.
We don't know.
We're just saying. Just saying some weird things happen.
Looks kind of weird. But
Jerry Rafferty, that song should have been
number 1. And it is remembered as, and look, even I love Shadow Dancing. It's not.
It still was number 1. It could have given up a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's not an iconic song the way Baker Street is.
No.
I think Andy Gibb has better songs than that even. But Baker Street is
I Just Want to Be Your Everything. Now that is a great song.
Yes, it is. But yes, I love both of those songs. But Baker Street is
that's an all-timer for me.
It's such a good, the melody. Did you know
the lyrics of it are so depressing? There actually are lyrics to it. People forget that. Most of it's instrumental, but there's a whole narrative about.
And as Jerry Rafferty's pissed about the music business, Baker Street is a street in London where a lot of the music.
And ironically, he wound up hating that song because it so overshadowed the whole rest of his life.
In his career. And
he kind of came to resent it. Like, ugh, I mean, I think he was proud of the song.
It made him a lot of money, I'm sure.
And that sax solo, the guy who played the sax? I love that too.
There was a whole battle over
Yeah.
who actually wrote the sax.
That's right. The sax player claimed he did, although there is a demo of it. It's just Jerry Rafferty where he's playing it on guitar. But the sax
which
player's
proves
name,
that
it's his.
that Jerry wrote it, but still the guy is Ravenscroft.
Raphael Ravenscroft. What a cool name. Sounds like a Harry Potter villain. Raphael Ravenscroft. I don't know. But
all right, we could go on about Baker Street.
I know, isn't that
but
funny? I didn't know you loved it that much. I love that song.
I remember, again, dating myself, like when both of those songs, I remember listening to them both on the radio on my way to school.
Should have both been number one.
Yeah. I just, turn it up, bus driver.
Wait, you got to listen to this music on the school bus?
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't.
Yeah, well.
Oh, man.
You were probably a rough neighborhood.
West Virginia, We just got out banjos and just, we just sang our own bluegrass. We made our own music.
Don't play into all of our stereotypes about what we think your childhood was like in West Virginia, Eric. But yes, that's what we were thinking.
Yeah, I know. We had our rope belts. One person had shoes,
Anything else?
No, love you, West Virginia.
Love you, West Virginia.
Home.
Oh my gosh. Listen, we hope that while those artists got robbed, we hope that you stop getting robbed and you get back some of that money you lost. And that's going to do it for us.
That's going to do it.
Go listen to some Baker Street. It'll make you feel better.
It will.
For like 3 minutes. See you next time.